El Prez.
Yo, yo.
So LA used to watch the Lakers play on Channel 9.
You know what it is. What's up, man? The company man himself, Justin. What's cracking, man?
Man, I've been looking forward to this conversation, man. Congratulations, Angels with Dirty Faces, your new release.
Hey, man, appreciate it, man. I feel great about it too. I feel real blessed and everything. No pun intended. So,
Word up, man. It's correct me if I'm wrong. It's 12 tracks.
uh-huh.
Feels like a love letter to Los Angeles.
You on the right path, yeah.
Opens up with this cool interlude intro from Ninth Wonder, talking
Uh-huh.
about he's got a rental car, he's driving around LA, and the only CD he had in the car was El Prez CD. And he said it was dope.
Crazy story, right?
Crazy story.
Yeah, man. I mean, I felt I needed to just kind of refresh a couple people if they don't know who I am and stuff like that. I felt that was a good kind of just story just to let people know, how authentic I am and stuff like that. And just how, how dope the story was. And I had a chance to really let other people hear that because I had it on video from a while ago. That's probably 8, 9 years old, I want to say, man. But yeah, and it's crazy how true it was where he stopped me at a party and was like, I had the camera going. We was downtown at the Standard. And he was like, hold up, man. He hopped in the scene and was like, yo, give me that camera real quick. Let me tell this story. And he grabbed a CD and proceeded to just talk about he was out here doing the true school stuff, rented a car. And he didn't have nothing in the car. And this is kind of before people were really able to plug in, with the aux, past the aux. So he had got the CD, I think, from two of my homies when we had went to the True School event, like with the homie Day One and stuff. Shouts to him. But yeah, it was just a random night, and we run into him 2 days later, and he's like, "Man, that's all I had in the car. I had to pick up my boy at LAX, so I had to drive all the way across LA for wherever he was at." He was like, "Man, that's all I had," and he just started listing the tracks, man, everything he loves. So that was a great jump off point, early in my career, man.
Yeah, I thought so too, man. We jump off point to this project, rather, not necessarily to early in your career. I definitely wasn't there, but
Yeah,
I think that it really sets up where the project ends up going in a real cool way to me. I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of moments in here that really pay homage to different artists in LA, to different media figures in LA, talking about LA from different lifestyles through your purview. But what made you put this project out? Where did this project come from? The timing and everything. There's a lot of serious content in here as well. So kind of set us up to the release of Angels with Dirty Faces.
yeah. I mean, it just was about timing, and I felt it was in the air right now for people to see a bigger slice of life of what LA brings. I've definitely been able to be really immersed in the scene for a long time now, and especially with my PayDay LA platform too. You get to be around all of these artists and stuff, and I really like to push back and go against the grain at times of what people try to stereotype us as and stuff. And I know what type of music that I make and that the city is really about. And so I just wanted to make a big, homage and love letter to the city, man, of a classic feel. It ain't about being too trendy or too set in the era or anything like that. I just want to give a classic music feel of what LA is about. And I just had all these bars ready, and I always have my concepts listed out. So when I came away Angels with Dirty Faces, I reached out to my boy Professor H. He reached out to me, I think, through a phone call, and we just got busy with a couple records over there in Troop Studios, and the chemistry was there, and he had the soundtrack that I needed just to get my point across with a lot of these dusty samples and soul and jazz samples and stuff. And I just really wanted to remind people of what LA is about from a classic person like myself that, a lot of people do say, reminds them of LA and stuff when I rap and stuff. And, I'm one of the voices out here in the city that people look up to and, gravitate to. Just knowing about the city, knowing about the music scene out here, rap shit in general. So I just tried to put that across in the album, man. So I try to hit a couple landmarks. I try to talk about what's going on right now, what's always been going on, and still have some fun with it and stuff, man. So it's a lot of Easter eggs and stuff in there for cats who really love the coast. they might figure out, in there.
Word up. One of my favorite joints on there is numerology. And
Yeah.
for me, because I've had the privilege of knowing you probably about 8 years or so around there at this point, and you are a touch point to the city. As from my perspective. I've never
Yeah.
seen anyone who didn't have respect for you. I've never seen you not support the culture, but also the community. I've never
Yeah.
seen you not be at the touch point of what's new, what's fresh, what's different, but also what's staple, what needs to be preserved, what we need to continue to cherish. But numerology is the first time I heard about some of the things it sounds like you went through in your life. Like
Yeah.
19 ran a con to pay rent.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, that's like a this is your life, for cats that might, be old enough to know about that. It's kind of just a quick just run through of my whole life. And I mean, the song is under 2 minutes, so it's real crazy. I just came up with that concept. I heard the beat, and it was real. It was real, like stream of consciousness, man. Just putting all those numbers together and everything, and I probably was talking to a couple women, asking me what's my master number and all this stuff, and all that. But I mean, all of these things were relevant, and I was able to really easily portray a lot of facts. That whole song is facts. Everything. If I had to run a con at 19 to pay rent, I that's what I had to do. I jumped into doing a bank scam foolishly to pay my rent over there at college, because I couldn't do stuff, and I ultimately ended up paying for it. But I talk about all this stuff in my life, from that to dealing with the wrong side of things growing up to 14 I got my dick sucked, 16 I was in handcuffs. I think I say I'm there, and all of this stuff is just real life. Like, so even I've had homies and people coming to me like, man, that's crazy how you just remembered all of that stuff. And I'm like, it wasn't as hard as you think, to be real, because once I started going, all of these events just popped out to me, you know what I'm saying? From the lows to the highs. And that's what I just kind of wanted to show everybody in there, that you could be vulnerable and talk about your whole life, especially in this day of social media where Instagram and you name it, all of these things portray a false sense of people's humanity and what they go through on a daily basis. We rarely see the lows as much as you would have probably before social media and stuff. And when people are talking, be open about themselves. So I just kind of wanted to let people know what I've been through, and what made me into the person I am and how did I get here, So, and I still end that off like, hey, I'm the shit. I'm still that nigga, I was one when I realized the world was mine. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, I just wanted to get that off to the people, man, and just show them a clever way.
Take me into that situation. Okay, so you're in college. What college you go to?
I went to CSUN. Yeah, Cal State Northridge.
You're at CSUN. And you mentioned you ran a bank scam. What bank scam did you run?
Yeah. Well, I jumped in one with my homies and they had me open up fake accounts, and then you get the money on there somehow, some way, and then you go and spend it all up and then cash the stuff out for as much as you can and disappear, and back in those days it wasn't as digital, so you could get away with doing a lot of stuff you couldn't do now. So if they needed to track you down, it's a lot harder, but it's always a paper trail and stuff, man. So you eventually get caught up for stuff like that. And I didn't really do nothing, no time or nothing over stuff like that. So it still was like a slap on the wrist. But I still was on the side picking up trash on the freeway, for a couple of years, man, trying to pay off my debt to society and stuff back then.
Man, I remember,
it was worth it though. It was worth it. I'd do it again in a heartbeat because I had to pay rent, man. They took my tuition away and all that stuff, man. So yeah, so it was burnt out, man. They took all my financial aid on some just BS, and you 18, 19 got to go get it. So that's what it was.
Yeah, there was those type of flips were real common when I was in college too. Especially when they had the credit card people used to post up on campus. And so they would try to get people to sign up for credit cards. So people would just make up an ID, run up a credit card, get a whole bunch of stuff, cancel
and it. Wasn't no way, right, to track stuff. I mean, I had my two-way time ports and all that stuff back then through a scam in college. I mean, textbooks.
Mm.
We used to run a smooth one with textbooks where you could just get a textbook and you turn it in for money and stuff. So, man, you leaving your textbook out, it was getting snatched up, like and turned in. Or I had a homie who worked in there and was taking it from the store, and then he'll just come in and you just return it right back. You know, I mean, you name it, man. I could go down the list, man. The scamming been going on a long time, but I learned my lesson, you know, real early on with that stuff.
I remember one of my
Got on his raps.
I got pulled over in Mississippi this one time. Me and my boys, Marcus, Sean, and Melvin. We were driving back from Mardi Gras back to South Carolina.
Yeah.
And I get a speeding ticket in Mississippi. This is like, I literally saw my life flash before my eyes. Like, here's a car with 4 black males speeding through Mississippi, like out of state plates. Yeah, it could go a different way. It didn't, fortunately.
Right.
So I got a ticket though. I got $100 speeding ticket, and $100 was a lot to me at that point in time, and I didn't have it. So I heard about this. I heard about this little scam, this little thing that you can do back then. Was if you had a speeding ticket, you write a check or any type of bill from the state. You write a check to cover the bill, but you make it $1 over. And then so I wrote them a check for $101. It cleared, the state cleared it. They said, okay, hey, thanks for sending us the money. Oh, but it looks like you made it a little too expensive. So can you just send us another check real quick? We'll go ahead and clear your record. You're fine now. Because anything that's more expensive than the cost of, like it costs more than $1 to submit a refund. And all the books have to balance. So I ended up getting away with that. And I held on. I let that rock for about 4 months until I got $100 with my graduation money. Then I paid it back.
Right?
Yeah, I sent it in. It was cool though, man. I mean, I think about stuff
Simpler
like that.
times.
You know, you got 18. First time you almost got sprayed.
Yeah, man. You're living in South Central LA. You know what I'm saying? Growing up in the city, man, rolling on the Shaw and shit like that as a teenager. Yeah. But yeah, that definitely happened a couple times, man. One time just being out on the wall. If you're from LA, you know about the wall over there on the Shaw and stuff with the mural and stuff for people who don't know, like off of like 48th and stuff. But the cars over there on the weekend, one of my homies, he was in a car club. So on the weekends and, you know, at night you hop in with him and you just roll back and forth, dog. Just back and forth from like Exposition all the way to Imperial, and then like back, it'd just be, you know, trail of cars. If you know about the Shaw, that's how the strip goes. So people would be posted there on the wall. And one time, some people was getting into it, and next thing you know, you just heard some shit spraying, and everybody just dashed. I jumped in the back of my homie car through the window. He jumped in the car. Some unknown dude jumps in the car, and we just all just hopped out of there, and we like, dog, who the hell are you? And he hops out. He like, man, I had to get out. We like, all right, for sure, get him out, cool. And that was one time, and then another time I was right there on Crenshaw and Stocker where the old bank was, and we pulled over to get out and all that stuff, like, you know, on the strip hanging out over there, and some older heads, some little OG type of cats came through, and they had parked and stuff, and they was chilling. And one of the cats that I didn't know who he was, but he was a friend of one of my homies, and he was just drunk or something, man, and was just tripping, and he said something sideways to one of them old head dudes, and dude was trying to be cool at first, and then it quickly just switched to, oh, well, let's go around the corner or some, and the next thing you know, it was like 2 cars pulled up, and then we looked, and the homie said, yeah, it might be time to go. And the second we hopped in the car and pulled out, the motherfucker started busting. And it was more like some warning shots because it didn't really, you know, hit the car bad, but then he had a hole in the back, you know, so while we had sped off and stuff. But man, that was growing up in the city, man. It's bound to happen, you know. That's another thing about that song. A lot of that stuff happens to everybody, you know.
That's what it feels like, man. I mean, in my head, it looks like that scene in Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Not the, you know, like whatever that type of scene, you know what I mean? It looks like that. Like, you have the Boys in the Hood interlude clip in there, I think. Did I hear that wrong? Was that Boys in the Hood? I think I did hear that.
Yeah, shouts to Professor H, you know. Shouts to Professor H, period, for fully producing everything, but he got a cold, you know what I'm saying, beat under there and flipped that whole sample because it just exemplifies what goes on in LA. You having a great ass time, right, with that song. LA is the center of the world, but right after, hey, you get right to the bug. You know what I'm saying? Get right to the shits, and the city is always with the shits and always with the business, man. So you always got to keep your head on a swivel to see what's going on because it can happen that quick, just like in that movie, right?
100%. 100%. There's another. I'm gonna misquote this one. You're talking about you're from the real LA, not Hollywood, place that everybody know. I live in Hollywood. I almost kind of felt offended by that.
Well, you know how we are. You know, LA is real territorial. You know, but you already a native, Angelino, man. You've been out here more than 5 years. You know, but
Word up.
yeah, man, we had to talk about it because it's getting kind of crazy out here with how they try to you know, stereotype our city at times, man. You know, from the transplants moving here really recently to the celebrities talking trash about us on social media and stuff. So it's like that song was for all my real LA people. That's why it's called LA is the center of the world, because LA pushes the culture, in my opinion. The West Coast pushes the culture. We don't sound, act anything like anybody else, you know. It's like that corrupt clip, you know, that famous Vlad when you be like, you know, we like ours, you know. Everybody from LA felt that one, like, man, I feel you. Yeah. We know exactly what that means. So we're a lot different. And it's a lot of culture that comes from us. It's a lot of culture that comes from the center of the city too. And that's why I mean LA is the metro of LA. You know what I'm saying? And so when I say Hollywood and stuff, I'm really talking about the tourists and the transplants and stuff, you know, because technically Hollywood is there. The Valley, I don't know, you know, Long Beach. No, I'm just playing. All of that stuff is involved, man. But it's just talking about how LA pushes the culture, man, and that let's talk about the real parts of LA, you know? That's why I say I'm from the real LA, you know, where they paint murals of Nipsey, you know what I'm saying? Where you go everywhere, you see a picture of Nipsey everywhere. You're not gonna see that all through LA. You know, you're gonna find it in the real parts of LA though, you know. Murals of Kobe, you know, you're gonna find it everywhere in LA, but you're gonna find the hard ones over where we at, you know. He ain't gonna be looking like you know, Marlon Wayans or something, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I mean, it was just trying to celebrate the city, man. And that's a real Easter egg with that song too, because the people, the real hip hop heads, and you know the history of the city, music wise and stuff, you're gonna really spot that sample and you know who used it before, and really put it out there. That was kind of from an era that I was looking up to back in the mid '90s and late '90s and stuff. So it was a group called Another Level and stuff that had a song called "What's That You Say" about the West Coast, and you know, them cats were kind of from our area and stuff, from the hills and Slauson Hills, like Janae say, Baldwin, Windsor, you know, Ladera Heights, all that area, and that's where a lot of us grew up in. You know, that's where I went to school at and stuff. That's the more they call it Black Beverly Hills, all that type of stuff too. But you know, I was getting bussed in from the hood, Florence and Normandy, and from the wood. But still, that's where we all hung out at. That's where all the women is at. That's where everything is at. So you know, it's just about celebrating all these areas and stuff that don't get celebrated as much, man. So I try to drop a lot of stuff, and we talk about Fat Burger. Everybody want to talk about In-N-Out, and I love In-N-Out. You know, I got a whole album called Animal Style, you know, for my old heads from my day ones, you know. But Fat Burger is a real LA bred, you know, spot. That real LA cast, they'll be like, oh, I like Fat Burger over In-N-Out, for example. Or we talking about, you know, Fox Hills Mall, you know, if you ain't been to Fox Hills Mall, you ain't from LA, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I try to name drop all these things and just give people, you know, a slice of life of where we come from, man. And that interlude at the end kind of encapsulates everything, you know, the good and the bad.
This, you know, what stands out to me, one thing about Nipsey that always stood out to me, just a lot of things about Nipsey always stood out to me, but this one quote, this one interview he did, and he was, I can't remember the year, but he hadn't, I mean, this is before, you know, Crenshaw mixtape, this is before, it might have been around or before, it might have been before his XXL freshman list. It might have been.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking about how, you know, LA is important too. It's a city that's important to America. America's a place important to the world. So LA is important to the world. And he was, and every year they had different award shows or whatever coming to LA. And so where he was from, Crenshaw and Slauson, is important to LA. It's one of the most important cultural places in LA. So he said, if I could dominate this if I could dominate this corner, then I could dominate this neighborhood, and I could dominate this area, then I'm dominating the city, now I'm dominating an area that's important to the whole world. And when everybody's flying for the BET Awards, they're gonna be like, who's the nigga? And that was how he looked at it. You know what I mean? And that was just, the way he was able to take things that were so macro and make them so micro and so tangible to me is one of my favorite things about Nipsey.
Yeah, that's a famous quote from him. I know about that quote also, and that's very true. You know, it all exemplifies what I'm talking about too. Is that we push the gears, you know, that run the machine because we right there in the middle of the machine. You know, Hollywood is right there. We're not gonna act like somebody that's from even Atlanta or somewhere else. You know, Chicago or anywhere else or a small town, even New York, because Hollywood and the whole entertainment industry is here. No matter where the urban industry is at, no matter where a lot of these other things might spring up, the entertainment industry and where a lot of things move is here. And the way of thinking is a lot more freer than it might be in other places. So that's why you get the diversity that we get. That we have. That's why you get the creativity that we have. You get a magical place like Lamert, you know. You get the average black man that might be, yeah, very hood, you know, but you know, we talk a certain way. And we could be very knowledgeable about the diaspora and our existence here as being a black man in America and being somebody that's from the West Coast in America, because you know they try to minimize how we think out here and stuff too at times, and that we don't exemplify the whole country and how the average person thinks. When really we do, you know, because a lot of things we do, it spreads across. You know, even I know going on tour early on and going to festivals and stuff like South by and A3C and you know CMJ and stuff. You go out there, you see all of us, and the next thing you know, you see everybody dressed like us. You know what I'm saying? Um, Everybody just like, man, we gravitate towards you guys because y'all so cool and we have a real free way of thinking. We don't feel like we have to follow a certain set of traditions and rules and things of that nature. So we focus a lot more on breaking them barriers. And it's sometimes an advantage that we have, you know, and it's sometimes a disadvantage that we have that, you know, shapes our existence. But we, even though we on the West Coast, we come from South Central LA. We come from the heart of the struggle, you know, and a lot of, you know, things that have gone on in this country, you know, from Watts to the Black Panthers to everything. So, you know, the niggas from out here is some of the hardest niggas in existence, no matter how west we are, you know, from everybody else. So it gives you a different idea of the black man and you know, the black and Latino man in America, man, and how we think, man, how the urban person thinks out here.
Yeah.
And it's all deal with that culture.
Yeah. I think your song Same Gang really stood out to me as well. That's you and JB. You know, you got a line there where you're talking about they don't like the smell of success, so they pull you over. And you describe a lot of police interactions, you know, with people in the community. You know, I mean, I don't even know if this is a conversation that could ever be minimized or maximized. It's so prevalent. It feels so reflexive that that's starting to be the thing that bothers me the most, right? If you watch the news this week, there are 4 to 5 different police shootings trending right now. And then there's a court case going on with Derek Chauvin. He's on trial. You know, we've had songs like this. I mean, Same Gang, it feels like a sequel to the old song.
Very purposeful.
Very purposeful. Where were you coming from when you put this together?
And that really was just done during the uprisings last year, you know, where I didn't want to pander to stuff, you know, and you don't want to just do something just to be in the moment. I love to make timeless music. And so I felt I wanted to wait till the time was right to make just a statement on how I just felt about things and just capture that feeling. So it's not so on point saying, okay, this happened. The song is talking about what just happened and everything. I wanted to really capture that feeling, you know. So, you know, when people are out there in the streets and they chanting you know, all right, we gonna be all right. That's timeless music that hits people to feeling, even though I might not be talking about a specific time. It fits everything, fits every time that it happens, because it happens just like you said. It's so common these days, you know. And when I was growing up, Same Gang was a big song, you know, as a little kid playing on the box and BT and all that stuff. That was, especially being out here, that was a really influential song, man, just as influential as Self Destruction and other stuff. Um, and so I just wanted to just give my point of view of how I felt about it and where I come from. And then being able to add a brother of mine like JB on there from Oklahoma City, that's what he's about. You know, he walk it and talk it. You know what I'm saying? About the rapping with the activism. And he's one of them few artists out here that are like that. You know, cats like him, Tough Poe, you know, these are some real dudes, you know, that really live that life that they rapping on the record, and they gonna speak up for people. They ain't just doing it for no Twitter, you know, followers and stuff. So I wanted to have him on there to really lend some legitimacy to it. Even though he ain't from LA, he gives his slice of life from the Midwest that they got infected with gangs and stuff, you know, as a consequence of us having gangs and stuff, you know.
Mm.
So I really loved having him on there and just talking about just how we feel and that our enemies ain't each other. That's what I mean by Same Gang too. Us killing each other in the street ain't really our enemy. The police is our enemy, and the police is still, you know, interacting with us the same way. That's my 99 problems right there. Like you bring up, you know, the interaction with the cop. We've all had that interaction, no matter we coming from work, party. We really was doing some dirt, you know, just being yourself, having air, you know, car fresheners hanging off your window, you know, like that's wild, man. You know, being in a drive-through, like what was the other dude, Elijah Blake or something,
Mm.
or
Oh,
the not the other guy in
Orlando.
Atlanta.
Oh, the Atlanta.
He was in
Yeah,
a drive-through and
that
they
was
said he was a
James
little
Blake.
too drunk.
James Blake.
Yeah, James Blake, crazy, you know. So, like you said, it's common, but what's unfortunate is been happening. You know, we capture a lot of the movies and the pop culture and stuff. I love doing that on my projects, and you hear that if you saw Boys in the Hood and the black cop stops him for no reason. You know,
Mm.
it, we live through that. What you see through Snowfall is so dope right now because if you grew up in South Central LA, I grew up on Florence and Normandy on 71st and Normandy. That's literally what was happening. You know, a lot of times, most stuff is too young for me to know at that time, but just
Mm.
the surroundings, the feeling, and everything that it was, you like, man, that takes you back right there. Police ain't no joke out here, bro. They the biggest gang in LA. You know, the sheriffs and the police, they the biggest gangs in LA. So that's why I said Same Gang also. And real ones know what I'm talking about when I mean that. So it's about putting it in terms that hopefully people out here understand. You know, we've been dealing with that type of shit all our life. So hopefully it gets through to some people, you know, because I say on there, if you want to ride, we go all ride, you know. But if we want to rise, we go all rise, you know. If we want
Mm.
to ride, I'm right outside with you, but you know, it's still all the same. So it was just my response to that, man. I didn't want to pander and just do something that kind of speak to where we wanted to go rather than speak on what's going on.
Mm.